first click. Once again. There. They only just started running the clock now, so. Yes, Lake Buena Vista, and am I seeing it up there? It's moving on to one screen. Getting the building. There we go. There's Walt and Starship building this city. So your host community of Lake Buena Vista was, hold on. Yeah, that's the one I want to see on the screen. Okay, I don't know what order I'm, yeah, that's there, now we're right. They got the monitors right. Your host community, residences, business campus, commercial center, commercial shopping, transportation hub, and recreation. Now, when they built this place, it was just the theme park and a few hotels. And park used to be open like 9 to 6, a little later in the summer. And they didn't know, what else are people gonna do? So, and they had promised to build a city, which is why Florida gave them all their zoning concessions. So they said, we're gonna do all these things, and they just kept announcing all these things for years and years and years. There's a 1971 rendering of the potential community of Lake Buena Vista. And on the commercial side, we always like to point out, they did build the commercial center, that one Sunbank building got built. And the rest of it did not.
I know none of you guys are ever gonna get to be in there, but it is absolutely gorgeous. 70s architecture, there's an atrium with little waterfalls and ponds, gorgeous.
And if you buy her book, Hidden History of Walt Disney World, you can see the inside of the Sunbank building. Also, if you have an account these days with Truist, Truist is the successor, like 3 times removed of Sunbank.
Well, that's
the
right,
bank
just
that
go to the
bought
bank.
Sunbank, yeah.
Yeah, just go to the bank.
Just go to any Truist and be like, hey, I'd like to buy some Mickey dollars. Okay, so now we're gonna get to Hastin. I will hand this over and you're not gonna linger, right? You're gonna move this along.
We're gonna move this right along. So hi, my name is Hastin Zylstra, and I'm kind of shocked that I'm up here because
Clearly you had no microphone.
Exactly. This story starts with me buying a townhome in about the time that these guys started podcasting. And I bought this cute little 70s townhome in Santa Ana, and I was wearing this yesterday. I wore Foxx's shirt because I'm like, oh, isn't it really cute how the like townhome buildings in Lake Buena Vista kind of look like the townhome buildings that I live in. Well, over the last couple of years, and thanks to my friend Rick, who I live with, I have discovered this absolutely amazing story that connects where I live to Lake Buena Vista. And it's very neat. But it all starts back to something else that I go to a lot and that I love, and it starts at Disneyland with a man named Earl Kaltenbach Jr. He came out of World War II without a job, so he worked for some of the movie studios, he worked for MGM, he was a set designer on Portrait of Jenny, and he was basically like in the thing, and then all of the, movie community was like, hey, Walt Disney's building this whole, like, Disneyland thing and needs help. So he was brought on as an art director under Gabe, and he worked on a lot of the backsides of the Disneyland buildings, including the floor-to-ceiling glass and a lot of the futuristic designs on the back of the buildings. And so when you see the backs of those original 1955 Tomorrowland buildings, Earl Kaltenbach worked on those. He later then went on to do a ton of housing projects like Rossmore and a few others. The Disneyland connection had really given him a really strong name in design and in architecture. And so he ended up working on what is kind of universally known as the first California townhome. Now, what makes a California townhome is it generally faces a green belt, unlike traditional row housing, and it generally has a lot of amenities that you wouldn't normally have in a smaller home. And so he worked on this first big one called Huntington Continental. I love this ad, $10,000 to own a home. A new kind of carefree ownership, over 400 houses sold in 3 weeks. And I just love this whole, like, you own the land, but everybody takes care of it. Aren't HOAs awesome? This is a whole new concept. And so he starts this first townhome project. It's very popular. This is kind of the first medium-sized one. Well, then he goes on to work with a company called the Grant Corporation, which is owned by Santa Anita Consolidated, and he works on a place called Bradford Place. And that's where I live. I live in Bradford Place, Santa Ana. And Earl was the architect on this. There was a few other designers, and this was the first really big complex. And this was really like futuristic for its time. They were really pushing it hard. Here's an article from House and Home magazine from December of 1971 talking about Bradford Place and how much it sold really well with these exteriors and awesome interior shots in our pool area. And it was 600 units in the first one, and they built 4 more communities, all with the same buildings designed, just absolutely exploding at this time. And I absolutely love, this is one of the ads for my complex. I love the 70s, yes. Ask the man from Bradford Place. It was hard because you had to sell this new concept to people, that this townhome concept in the 70s wasn't just something that people would automatically opt into because they didn't want apartment living, but they wanted a single family home, but maybe they couldn't afford it. And so they did this. My favorite thing in this is the pass-through kitchen window with patio bar for outdoor serving and parties. And that's basically just a slat of wood that's outside one of the windows that you can stick stuff on. But they try to do this whole connection to nature thing. It was very interesting. I love this ad from my complex talking about its minutes from everywhere. Load up in your 1970s car and take an 18-minute drive to Disneyland. Disneyland was always a big part of this. I still laugh when I get in the car and I set one of the parking lots to Disneyland and it says it's 18 minutes. I think it's still 18 minutes all these years later. And it's just it's really interesting, this selling this concept. I love this picture of these kids in my complex that are just playing on blocks of wood. No play equipment, no anything else. Here you go, here's a top lot for them to play on. It's just a bunch of blocks of wood.
Yeah, in my day we had lumber.
And so this was popular enough that Carol Icahn, who was a famous Southern California home designer, designed the models, and there's a book I've got over in the village of the models and the complexes, and I just love the 70s vibe. I love how she said for inexpensive homes, you shouldn't have a TV that's more than 12 inches, because they probably won't be able to afford it. But it's just great, all of these interior shots and this 70s design, trying to really sell this futuristic concept of, even though these are small homes, that you can sort of fully live inside of them. And I just love that carpeted kitchen with all the eggs that are part of some sort of centerpiece design. It's just wonderful. I'm thinking about refurbishing back to that. So here's the interesting thing. Our Disneyland connections don't just end with an ad and with Earl Kaltenbach designing it. So at the end of the Carousel of Progress, you would go up the speed ramp. You would see that beautiful Progress City model that's now on display over at the People Mover. And you would go upstairs, and there would be General Electric Builder of the Month homes pushing this GE gold medallion, all-electric lifestyle. And they presented Grant with this award, and Bradford Place was featured in the Carousel of Progress for the few years that it ran at Disneyland. So you've got this really strong connection between Grant Corporation and the company and everything else, and this California townhome concept is just exploding. Exploding to the point where the Urban Land Institute is we need to do a study on these, because we don't know if people actually like to live in these or not. And it was interesting that this was a big West Coast phenomenon, but on the East Coast, only about 1 in 5 people said that they wanted to live in a townhome because it was such a new concept. And so, super dynamic, 30% of all homes in 72, and I love that Bradford Place, again, at the front of this so much that it was featured in this book as one of the groups that, people were surveyed at. And so really, this Grant company was really at the forefront of new home developing. So what does Disney do? Disney says, okay, well, there's this really popular East Coast or West Coast concept, so what are we gonna do? Like Disneyland, we'll bring it to the East Coast with the Lake Buena Vista townhouses. And I love this construction shot. The funny thing is that Earl Kaltenbach was the one who came up with the idea of doing the double cinder block between the homes so that you would get as little noise as possible. And these townhouses out here, and there's a great entire guide that's up on the Walt Disney World on the RetroMagic site with this flyer, talking about what the costs are to basically lease one of these townhomes for a couple years and how it could be your second home, right? So kind of DVC, long before DVC was a thing. And I love this article headline where they're building out these townhomes, and Disney is calling average folks if you have money.
Your average and poor do not apply.
Exactly. Which is kind of funny because the goal of townhomes on the West Coast was the opposite. And it was interesting because I was looking at some of the Disney docs over there, and they said they weren't going to probably build like non-single family homes until 1977 in that original plan. So they really accelerated this concept up quickly. I love this idea that you're just hanging out in the beautiful outdoor Florida sun on your little patio at your second home, saying hi to your neighbors. This real just community of people gathering, and that was kind of the big part of it, is that they had seen this explosion of this community concept. And so it's 1973, Disney is starting to there's some building challenges and whatever else, and so they go, well, we're getting ready to do the Space Mountain expansion, and we're starting to think about Epcot Center, and so we kind of want to do this house thing because the townhomes were moderately successful, not super successful, but moderately successful. So we need to bring in a company who is effective at this, who can make these townhomes sort of happen. And come to find out, that company is Grant Construction, who built the townhomes that I live in. And so here we are, kind of full circle, Grant built a ton of these giant townhome and single family home complexes. Why don't we bring them out to Florida? I actually had a chance to email one of the people that was on this team, James L. Basaric, and he was saying that, that Florida thing, it didn't work out. They came out here and they built some stuff, and Disney had a grand concept that they didn't want to really fully implement. And I love that this concept includes great communities, like the boating community, or the golf community, or
Western community.
Yeah, the Western community.
I'm obsessed with that community, yeah.
Just these kind of crazy different complexes that would have existed in Lake Buena Vista. And you can see from that one piece of art that they're already starting thinking about Epcot Center. So what's interesting is this actually appeared in the 1974 annual report, where they talked about how they appeared with Grant. And it was just, Grant must notify Disney further of its plans during the early part of 1975, so it kind of started out on rocky ground. Grant built one test community here in Florida called Lake Forest, and it was not built anywhere around here in Orlando or whatever else. It was built down in Tampa. And it was built right by Busch Gardens and UCF, and it was a challenge. There were problems. Things didn't sell well. They could not move these townhomes, and they really, really suffered. And so what happened? Well, Grant Corporation in 1976 failed to exist. The Lake Buena Vista townhomes became the Lake Buena Vista vacation villas, so you could stay in them for a week, almost like a timeshare or any other property. And unfortunately, by that point in time, the idea of residences was kind of over. And that's my crazy connection and story to from where I live in Bradford Place out here to Lake Buena Vista. So it's just kind of crazy.
And now he gives his Airbnb pitch if you want to stay.
Hey, you renovate that
Yeah.
for the 70s, I'll give you any amount of money.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. You need a retro renovation.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what was built at Lake Buena Vista. So,
I will say, as a kid, when I visited Lake Buena Vista, you would look across the water to the townhomes, and you just thought, oh, well, that's where the rich people come to stay on vacation. Because it's, oh my gosh, they're getting a whole house, and for a week, like, that's crazy.
It's funny that that concept came out of like basically, you know, lower income housing in California,
Yeah.
but it was so popular, Disney was like, we gotta get a piece of that.
so let's talk about what was built at Lake Buena Vista. So if you were at movie night last night, especially for my slideshow, but for all of it, this is going to be a lot of the same way. We're going to take a walk through the village and see the things that were built and make comments about it. So this is the original Lake Buena Vista shopping village. Now imagine where those parking garages are today as opposed to this solid parking for 150 cars. Maybe something like that there.
Yeah, that was a big part of what they were trying to do, is eliminate cars. They were trying to make a community that relied not on the family car, and paths and golf carts and all that was.
Yeah, my favorite is the old promotional verbiage talking about like riding a horse to the village.
Yes.
And
What's wrong with
and
that?
like, oh yeah, like, you know, go from your treehouse and ride a horse and tie the horse up and buy a steak at the gourmet pantry and then ride back. And it's like,
Take your personal boat down.
oh, a float boat, an electric float boat.
And the land on the left there, you can see, is where eventually they would build the Empress Lily and the West Side and Pleasure Island and all that goes beyond there. But the Empress Lily would be kind of right there where they dug it out and built it on land, which you'll see. And that island in the middle goes away.
Yeah.
This was the newspaper ad for the opening day. Some of the great signs that we'll see in some of the shops. There's a full listing of the shops at the bottom there. But it's so different, so unique, so exciting. Only the Disney people could have done it. And it's open every day, 10 till 10. So when the park closed at 6, you had something to do. You could go down for 4 hours and shop for some tobacco or some fresh made ceramics.
I think that they really got this.
I did zoom in on the bottom of that, and AI tries really hard to give you the list of, to give you a clean list of the shops. I mean, we do have lists of the shops, but I just thought it was pretty funny to go through, because some of these didn't last too long. But some wonderful options down there. This is the ribbon cutting, which, why not? Cinderella and the mice. And I couldn't tell, originally when I looked at this picture, if you look dead center, pointing at Cinderella, I thought that was Abe Lincoln. and it's a guy in like Victorian garb. And I'm like, all right, he's here to shop too. But, you know, they did sell, you know, hats at Sir Edward's, so maybe he was there to buy a new stovepipe hat. Who knows? And the marketing. I didn't include it in here, but they used to have postcards that they would put in the rooms that had Mickey on one side standing in front of that structure in the back is the Captain's Tower, which is one of the only things that's still there. Obscured now, but still there from the original village. It was kind of like their castle, their spaceship Earth. That was their center point where events were held and meet and greets, some of which you'll see. And they used to leave a card, and it was Mickey like standing in front of the Captain's Tower, and on the back side of the postcard was like, "Hey, join me down at the shopping village when you're done in the parks." And there is the Captain's Tower. Some of this is we're just kind of give you like, this is what it was like to walk through there. You know, you put on your Sunday best and your finest bell bottoms and wander around the village. This is the flower shop. In case you wanted to buy, this one was real flowers, not plastic flowers like the ones they sold at the Martin McCarthy told us about yesterday.
That staircase is still there. It's attached to the front of the Christmas shop.
Oh, right, yeah.
And in the Captain's Tower is now the pin trading place.
And so there is the interior of the flower shop in case you wanted to know what kind of flowers you could buy. And I love the terrarium down there in the bottom left. And at Hastin, if you're looking to put together some interior decor, These ladies could come from, was this Miss Merrilies?
This is Miss Maryland's Madness, yeah.
Well, we should talk about the interiors that, at least in the townhomes, they were designed by Emile Curie, which is, you know, an incredible Disney interior person, and they had like their own little interior design firm that they had as well.
I always, when I say 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and then I contrast it with this, I'm like, the same guy that did Captain Nemo's Salon did this?
Russian.
All
He did
the little set
everything.
dressing in Mary Poppins and Haunted Mansion, and yeah, now he's doing this.
Branching out.
And so when we get shots of slides from down there, it's great because a lot of what they took pictures of was the signs and the exteriors, because it wasn't, you didn't normally walk into a suit shop or a candy store and start taking photos inside back then with your film camera. So what you got a lot was these scenery shots, which is just great. I mean, every shop seemed to have a phenomenal sign. Here's the Toys Fantastic wood carved sign. That's the interior of Toys Fantastic.
Like, so the greatest thing about that store, and for those of you that were there, you know, you would walk in, they had, the whole bottom floor was things, but there were stairs that you would take upstairs, and they had a table where they had some toys out where you could actually
Gary, come
play
back.
with stuff.
I need you on the next slide. Go ahead.
And it was as a kid, it was like, we would rush there to go upstairs in order to play with like little wind-up dolls and those water toys where you push the button and it would squirt the little things around. Yeah, that was good stuff.
So probably my favorite sign was the one to Sir Edward's Haberdasher, and it was the men's store there where you could buy dress clothing. And if you wanted to go inside Sir Edward's, you might buy a green plaid suit and be measured for it right there. But please note the mannequin behind the guy. And it's terrible because I'm not sure if it's just the lighting or if they were going for like Bing Crosby and blackface or what it is. But
Is it a bronze
is
mannequin?
it bronze mannequin maybe? Like, I don't know. Maybe it just had too much California sun. And then
Ceramic dog.
Yeah, being overlooked by a ceramic dog.
And the best part is the guy on the right's like, I don't know, tan or tan? What do you think? Like, he needs her assistance to decide which shade of tan he's buying. And then this one, I love the double shots. But you can see, I'm sure, Jim and some of the folks over there that lived here bought a lot of clothes at Sir Edward's. I'm sure they got a discount down there as well. So, but we have a few examples, and that's why I had to call Gary back.
Oh, lovely.
We've acquired some over the years. I'm not going to try it on because it'd be fat guy in a little coat. Hold on to that for a second. Let me distribute the ties here. We got 4 ties. We're not going to put them on, but they'll be on display in the room. But if you guys look at the back leaf, the tail, it has the made especially for Sir Edward's Haberdasher, Lake Buena Vista. And this jacket here, which Todd's wife desperately would like to take with her, also says Sir Edward's Haberdasher inside. And that was, this has been hanging on the back door of my office for like a year now, so I was glad to finally get it down here. So they'll be on display in the village, and you can check out what it would have been like to shop for tan clothes and plaid clothes with a woman always telling you in the photos which clothes you should be buying at Sir Edward's Haberdasher. Branded jewelry boxes, absolutely. I don't know how many of you out there might own one of these. We don't actually. But if you bought your significant other a lovely piece of jewelry like that, you could get it in a Lake Buena Vista Village satin box. The signs.
They're just incredible.
That light bite sign is one of the great things ever. Truly.
Yeah, the light bulb.
And it was about
Yeah.
yay tall.
Yeah.
I think on the side of the wall.
Got the fork and knife, he's ready.
All hand carved.
We were cracking up and reading about the opening of the village. We found out that Light Bite, their food didn't arrive in time, so they had to serve hamburgers and hot dogs on the first day. Not that much of a Light Bite.
Well, it's still not as great as the, what was the restaurant in Epcot and right past Station Bird, Sunshine,
The Sunrise Terrace?
Sunrise Terrace, when they opened, and Epcot, it was like 140 degrees every day, especially out there before they put the sails up in the redo. That plaza was so hot, you get spaghetti and meatballs was like their specialty. Terrific signs. Captain Jack's, the Windjammer Dock Shop, Miss Merrilies Fashions.
Captain Jack's logo lasted forever, as did Captain Jack's.
Oh, we have more photos of Captain Jack's.
Yeah, I did a blog post when it closed.
Ooh, Old World. Look at that.
Yes.
Taste of the Old World.
So the statuary that they
Hadn't been built yet, or was probably in sort of a proto stage. So this was a big deal, and they had, as you get into the wine shop and things, they really had high class merchandise and really good stuff. There was nothing like this. Would be like the Galleria of today.
And I wonder how much of that relates to those originally going to be being residences and thinking about the residences and how, well, we're going to need the things that, people are going to want a flower pot for their beautiful town.
And that's it. That is the other. As you said, you could go buy a steak. You could go buy wine.
It's like pantry, they had grocery stores, they had a wine store.
There's also an element of, and I wouldn't besmirch anybody by saying this, the guys in charge of Disney at the time also built things that they themselves wanted. So they love golf, so they built 3 golf courses and had famous golf guys come in and help design them and all. When you're living down here, hey, I'm building this house in Windermere. I can't get a good prime rib. I can't find a place to decorate my house. There's not a decent men's store around. We'll build a village and outfit it with what they wanted.
They'd bring their sourdough in and
Bring the
everything.
sourdough,
But
they interesting cuts of meat,
That's right.
butchered.
But it became a real community hub too. I mean, it's like between that and the Lake Buena Vista Club, they were bringing in, women's groups and all kinds of different meetings and everything were happening. It was just the stuff of community life down below Orlando.
I believe that the Lake Buena Vista Rotarians still needed the Dutch Inn. I can't remember what it's called now. It's the first hotel on the left.
Grove's there, right?
Isn't
Isn't the Grove's there now?
Yeah, I think so.
So there's the tag that would come on each thing, and there would also be the artist would etch their name into whatever they created, whoever the surrounding person was that made it, or potter. Posh Pets, yes, there was a pet store at the beginning. I always tell people there was until what was it, Goofy's Tales, or I don't know, there was a pet supply store down there with pet toys and things until they redid Disney Springs. There was now there's a pet specific rack in the gigantic World of Disney down there. And AI cleaned this up since it appeared on the Progress City podcast, but yes, you could go and there's a little scamp looking at a puppy. I don't think he bought it, but maybe they put it in their carry-on and brought it home from their trip to Walt Disney World.
Like Lucy bringing the cheese, right?
Yes.
Stuff
So, Von Otto's Antiques. I think that's Ports of the World, right?
Port of Entry.
Port of Entry.
Yeah.
So Von Otto's Antiques, with both of these stores, I guess I should, one story I was told, I'm not giving any credence to this, is that the Disney executives, managers, etc., could go down, and if you knew the person who did the ordering for these stores, you could say, hey, my wife really wants this $5,000 Chippendale for our house. And they would order it and put it in stock, and then you could go down and buy it with your 50% employee discount. So Disney was subsidizing furnishing their homes at a slight discount. It's the Ports of Entry. I'm not looking over at that table because it's shut up, Kids are getting bored with all this shopping and it's not time to eat yet. What do we do?
Whatchamacallit? I'm surprised they just didn't build a bunch of blocks of wood.
Right.
That's what we need. I mean,
I started with that. So yeah, this was the playground equipment down there. It goes through some iterations. So you'll see it in multiple shots here. There is a model of it out there in Art Lyon's display that he 3D printed.
Again, this is roughly in front of what's now Ghirardelli. So when you see Ghirardelli, that was Light, and this was sitting in front of it in that big open spot.
There is the world's hottest piece of sheet metal. I see all the nods. Yeah.
The interesting thing about this is from this point forward in the subsequent slides, watch how they tried to address the fact that you could get third-degree burns coming down this slide.
My legs.
So this is in and a little more built up, a little more crowded around there, more umbrellas up to try to cool you off after you got the burns. Here you could slide down and burn yourself on this fire pole. But he's got a full-on jacket on, so it must be, well, if he's a Floridian, it's September. If it's anybody else, it's January. And then you see they covered it with canvas after that to try to be like,
That perch was like, if you could get up into that perch, that was the coolest place to hang out while you're waiting for your parents.
And then the obligatory, you know what, this is fine, but it's the 90s, we're trying to Vegas this place up, we're moving towards downtown Disney. Michael Eisner must have said, you know what we really need to do with that? We gotta like Wonders of Life it up. And so you get a whole color scheme there to kind of give it its last appearance. That's a very 90s sweatsuit on that mom in the background.
We're little.
Are those lightning rods or just
At the top, I think, Paul, did you have a couple things left from the Tomorrowland fit out that they just said we'll pop them on top of it? I mean,
Like a grape tomato on a toothpick.
maybe that's where they did the Radio Disney. They broadcast it from it. But now it is finally time to eat, and you can't do a panel with me without getting to the food. So the Village Restaurant was kind of their flagship, classy spot to go before they built the Empress Lily. And if you ate inside there, you might find it interesting that there was trees growing up from the ground and these planters and all, and say, wow, where did they get that idea? Well, the Four Seasons restaurant in New York City opened in the Seagram's building in 1958. In its heyday, it was a favorite of Jackie Kennedy and all of the jet set in the 60s. It finally closed right before COVID, and they've talked about relocating it or maybe opened a fake version somewhere. But what they used to do was they would change the greenery and all there for the season. So like the trees that were in there for autumn would come out, and then new trees would go in for winter, and then there'd be spring trees and summer flowers, and so that's one of the rooms there.
Does anyone remember what the trees were in there? Were they eucalyptus?
We'd have to ask Scott Gerard on this.
I do know.
He'll know.
I do know that the Village Restaurant's big attraction was on Thursdays. They would have a fashion show with fashions from Miss Marily's Madness.
And we may have the picture of that in here. I mentioned last night during movie night that the Village Restaurant eventually became Chef Mickey's Village Restaurant, where they would have the character breakfast, the place where you could meet Mickey. The first established full-time character restaurant where it was like advertised here, this is what we do here.
I will throw one other thing about the Village Restaurant. They brought in the finest jazz musicians in the United States on a regular basis to that location.
Yeah, the Village Lounge. And it was such a problem that USF students would drive down and just like flood the parking lot and like just cram into the place. And they had to institute a cover charge.
And you'll also notice on one of the pages in your program is one of the newspaper ads that Hal talked about, where they have these incredible advertisements for come to the Village and see this entertainer, and some guys on the vibra harp.
Oh, right.
Vibra harp to town, and I don't know if I put it in the slide or not. This is from the 1990 or 91 calendar, and that was shot in the Village Rest. So you're going into Chef Mickey's. That was the entrance. She's pointing at the menu, and then they superimposed. This was the November one, so it was for Thanksgiving. And then the gourmet pantry. I love the ladle over top on this. That's just kind of there. And do you notice it? Do you not notice it? The steaming pot. This is from our friend BJ Major, who actually lives back in Pennsylvania. She spent a year and a half working at the Light Bite, and this is a picture of her and one of her co-workers. Heidelberger's Deli was next to the Light Bite, wasn't it? I think it was adjacent.
It was
to
down a
little bit.
It's where the Earl sandwich.
Earl sandwiches
Yeah.
now. Okay. And
Similar.
that was where you could go to get your deli and lunch.
And the Heidelberger was a person, right? I'm trying to remember. Was that something? Okay, never mind. Most of the names of the stores in there were actually direct references to people that worked at Disney at that time.
If not, we'll make a backstory.
Yeah.
Hashtag story.
It's lore.
Yeah.
Very
So now we're on to Captain Jack's. Captain Jack's was the survivor. It was there until they decided to build Disney Springs.
I heard he'll get you high. Is that true or false?
Just a little push.
Yeah.
And that's Billy Joel reference for those of you who don't get it. And there's the pedal boats outside Captain Jack's. Captain Jack's kept that sign up to the end. It was not a huge menu, but I do include the menu. And what they were famous for was their strawberry margarita. Now, I would love to tell you that I found a slide of a guy drinking the strawberry margarita inside there. I did not. Alas, it was my Uncle Joe. My Uncle Joe and Aunt Ann were childless, but in 1978, she wanted to go to Disney World, and he took her. And in the stack of pictures she handed me like 5 years ago from the trip and just said, I don't want these back, was this picture of Uncle Joe enjoying the original strawberry margarita at Captain Jack's, wearing his straw cowboy hat. Now,
How we
Howard,
enjoy things.
Howard, you have to tell us why the strawberry margarita was notable.
Well, this was the original, this is the origin of the strawberry margarita, and they used strawberries from Florida in this, and this took off nationwide after it debuted.
I had read some stuff that like it had been like a little popular in California, and then they brought it over here. Yeah, they made a big deal about like, oh, they're using real strawberry tequila.
Now, if you are worried that all you could get there was a cheese plate, worry not. You had a array of options there. The combination plate seems like the best deal. You could get a lot of things there, but you can get some smoked kingfish. So there's your Florida smoked fish dish. And seafood treasures are seasonal, so I don't know what the seafood treasure of the day is, but you can ask your waiter. The first mate's platter down the bottom looks pretty good too. And we'll move on to the Empress Lily, the trademark restaurant, still there today as Paddlefish, but
I hear it's a great place to rob.
Scuba gear.
Like, it was Scuba Mickey. Now I know.
That's why he was unavailable. So this is the September 1986 Disney calendar. Why do they have that picture? Because there was a character breakfast with Pinocchio and others on the Empress Lily every day. So that's a picture of the character breakfast on the Empress Lily. Here are some construction pictures of it. Now this is before they've cut away that land. So if you were under illusions that it's a real floating boat, I'm sorry to not float your boat. It was built from the ground up, and they eventually scooped it out. Hey, do you have pictures of them scooping it out? Sure, there it is. You can see the booms up there. They've got the bones of it up. It's a concrete structure, and that the paddle wheel on the back actually turned until it became Paddlefish. I guess there's an irony about that. So it's stationary now, but it used to turn slowly.
Also a bob around boat sighting.
There is a bob around boat sighting.
Like a cryptid sighting.
Most popular worst boats ever. So this sign, and this is a slide somebody took in the mid 70s. I loved it. It's not terribly clear, but you can see this was kind of like the end, and they're like, oh, you got to keep walking, and you got to keep walking to get to it. I did try to zoom in and clean up the sign a little bit because the Empress Lily had a ton of lounges and a ton of restaurants on it. It wasn't just one restaurant. They had 5 different restaurants on there. Unfortunately, the guy didn't take a shot of the entire sign. So, not that we don't know what they were, but it would have been nice if we had done that. And they give you all the measurements of it there. And that was the walk. So when you got to like the end of the village, this was the walk. Like you had to keep walking down this path to be able to get over there. The signs, oh goodness, the signs to get into the shopping center were gorgeous. You can see the Captain's Tower in the back of that top one.
And that Lake Buena Vista sign was at the entrance and across from what was the crossroads right there at 535 in Vineland.
Yeah, amazing. And then this one here I posted, and our old friend Hugh Darley immediately commented and said this sign was designed by Mike Johnson of Wed. He even hand drew the wood grain on his drawings.
Wow.
So I'm sure the carvers appreciated that. And there's the ad that's in your, I think I put it in your programs, but fantastic. You know, Terry Gibbs with his Vibra heart, Patty Page coming in to sing at Top of the World, and the Lego display at Walt Disney World Village. And so we saw this ad and we knew the date, and I'm like, actually, we saw a slide first, and then I looked and found this ad. So this slide, I didn't buy it because the guy wanted a ridiculous amount of money. He said, don't tell image scan, do not copy. But that's a Lego Independence Hall outside of the Captain's Tower. So they did actually have the Lego display there, and as advertised, that's what you could have seen. So the Lego store, like, predated by like 20 years.
It never went away?
Never went away. The Village Tree, this would have been early 80s. There is the fashion show at lunch in the Village restaurant.
I've always loved that guy. Look at him.
Yeah, he's thinking, honey, with his pipe in his mouth. Honey, what do you think? Should we buy this for you?
Remarkable.
You look very fetching in that. As Hal talked about the emotions that they would bring in here. So in 1980, to promote The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader came and made an appearance in the Captain's Tower. When Davy Jones from the Monkees wrote his biography, he did a book signing in the Captain's Tower with Mickey making an appearance, and his biggest fan in the world there on the left, who might be a visitor from the movie V, if you look at it. I'm not sure. And then this was my family's visit to the Village. That's me in the yellow shirt. And this was our morning before we caught our flight to go home, my first trip to Walt Disney World. But we did eat in Empress Lily, and that's the night I got in trouble for saying the word sucks. So, we'll wrap up with the Lake Buena Vista Club, which was really the country club of Lake Buena Vista. There are some fabulous shots of it, and is there any part of it left now at Saratoga?
Oh yeah, no, it's still there.
Is that where the turf club is now?
No. If you go through the lobby at Saratoga into the back area, like that, the turf club is still there. And if you go below it, and I haven't been in there in years, but the pro shop was completely intact. 70s fixtures, wallpaper, everything.
What's interesting is that this was actually there were a bunch of designs in those early grant designs when they were laying out some of those model homes that they had built that never became anything. There was apparently a reference to building this club building at that time. So this may actually date back, the concept of this may date back to that golf village and having it related to the residents.
Well, if it's the lifestyle you want, it's all there for you.
Oh, yeah, I would like to point out that staircase is still there, and you can see where the pool was, and this has to have been like the worst pool at Disney World. It was so tiny.
Yeah. And then the tree houses, we'll take a quick peek at the tree houses so that you can see the interiors and the exteriors. You needed to close all of those drapes at night if you wanted any in the Florida sun, I'm sure it was great, but the trees around you, there might have been some buffering, but you had to pull those shades shut at night when the lights were on.
I heard if the lamp was left on, you knew that Dick Nunes was around.
So there's your Milchuri interiors. And the best part about this one is the shag carpet, not only on the floor there in the kitchen, but on both sides of the spiral staircase going up. They literally had the least accessible properties in history here. To get to them, you needed to go up a flight of steps. To get to the bedroom, you needed to go up this spiral staircase of death. We can't end a discussion of the village without talking about the Saltwater Express, so give me the 30 seconds, on Saltwater Express before we show everybody them singing and dancing.
Saltwater Express, well, they were a super popular sort of folk group that started at Captain Cook's Polynesian Village, 1972. They were very popular. They bantered with the audience. Apparently, they stole jokes from late night. They'd go in the back room and watch late night jokes. They'd go and tell them to the group because they didn't know they were in Disney World. They were wildly popular. Disney used them on the Arrival Live on 535 campaign that they were waging locally, where they're trying to get the state to pay to improve 535. They were like sort of heroes of Walt Disney World with locals over the first 4 years. Apparently, they never actually moved them to the village. They actually ended up leaving Disney and moving to the Hyatt House on 192.
I just want to point out that they're playing 6 nights a week from 10 to 2.
Yeah, right.
That's a
lot.
And the chummery.
The chummery.
And probably had a day job to boot.
Oh,
So they made a famous video with the Disney film to promote grad nights, to local folks. So some of you have seen it before. It was played at a D23 before. It was played on the Progress City live stream not long ago. We've given it the full Todd McCartney retro WDW treatment, so it should be better and clearer than you've ever seen it before, and a little more color than you've ever seen in it before, because it's a pretty washed out film. And that's how we'll leave the stage, is leaving you to watch the Saltwater Express. You want the experience of walking through? They dressed as Pied Pipers. They come through to lead a group of teens onto a bus to take them to grad night, except that's not what's evident at the beginning. It's just kids following two guys playing guitars in a lead. And I mean, by the 1980s, it would have been a kids do not follow these people. So we'll start and leave the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Party that you won't wanna miss. Well, that's sure a lot of